This episode of Wine and Crime is brought to you by Progressive Insurance.
Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies.
Try it at Progressive.com.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Wine and Crime contains graphic and explicit content which may not be suitable for some listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Listening to Wine and Crime podcast where two friends chug wine, etc., chat true crime, and unleash their worst Minnesotan accents.
I'm losing it already. Okay. That was beautiful.
Hey, we haven't recorded after 5 p.m. in
a while.
So long.
In a while. Yeah. I'm scared because I smoked a lot. I was like, I don't have anything to do after this. And then you were running a little behind, so I was just like sitting in my office dicking around on TikTok.
I'll smoke more.
Like, what else am I gonna do? And now I don't know. Who are we? I'm Amanda.
Who are you? Yeah, I'm Lucy.
Holy shit. I'm so happy. This is amazing.
Oh, God. Yeah, this is our first nocturnal, post-sunset recording.
In a long time.
It's been a fucking minute, so it might get a little bit weird. Today, we are bringing you a very special fan pick, and this one comes from Bonnie and Clyde.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Not anyone asking to be anonymous. No, at all. I'm sure that's their legal name.
Yeah, that's on their birth certificate, babe.
Mm-hmm. So Bonnie and Clyde chose the topic of Hudson Valley Hoodlums.
And the way I could not read this as anything other than Hidden Valley Ranch crimes, none of those words except one were even in the title. No, I got the assignment right, but I glanced at it first and I was like, Hidden Valley Ranch crimes. And then I was like, maybe you could read it and not just conceptualize words, and then you'll know what the fuck is going on.
You just wanted to feel targeted, I think.
I did. What else is new? I always want to feel targeted.
Always the victim, Amanda Jacobson.
The Amanda Jacobson story. Also, I couldn't decide between my I am not well hat and my I hope this email kills us both hat for tonight.
Well, you wore the last one the last episode.
I think I did. So this one was also just closer to me. And can I tell you that I am wearing a fucking hat because earlier today I bathed, but then I made a fatal mistake for bang havers.
Oh, God.
Of getting out of the bath and putting my wet hair up in a high bun with the bangs slicked back.
How'd that work out for you?
So when I went to dry it, even though it was still damp, and I used a water sprayer, a water gun on my bangs, I had irrevocably lifted them at the root in such a way that only a shower can repair. So my hair looks so nice. And then my bangs were just we're going to do this. And I don't care how many times you fucking wet us and dry us and try to round brush us or straightening iron us. We don't fucking care.
And you know what? It's not nearly as cute as it was on your crush in 6th grade with bangs sticking straight out front.
Sure wasn't. So I was like, well, after all that work, I'm going to fucking wear a hat. A hat. You guys, I am so the victim. I am so victimized. My life is so hard.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Thank you for holding space for my bangs trauma.
Mm-hmm. This is a safe space for your bangs.
It's fine, okay? But if I'm still
wearing
a
hat,
to
show us.
If I'm still, fine.
It's a safe space, but you have to show us.
If I'm still wearing a hat in a few days, it just means I haven't showered.
Hell yeah. Oh.
Well, now they're kind of flattened.
Okay, that doesn't look terrible.
It's rough.
I can tell it's not what you were.
Wine coven.
It's not what you were going for.
No, yeah, you can tell. You can tell.
But if I saw you in a grocery store, I wouldn't be like, that bitch.
That.
I wouldn't like nudge my friend, you know?
That's the metric.
Yeah.
Would I stop you in the grocery store?
I would say, would I nudge the person I'm with? Is it nudgeable?
Would I nudge and nod?
Would I gently touch the arm and make eye contact to signal, we'll discuss this later? Wait till we're in the car.
I had a couple of those moments. I don't know with you necessarily, but
I mean,
but in general, with distant family at my wedding.
Weddings are the perfect place to do the subtle arm touch and the eye contact. It's like, log this moment. We will be coming back.
1,000%. And specifically in like the wardrobe department, I love a vague, wide, open, ambiguous dress code, which I kind of gave. I was like dressed to impress outdoor venue, basically.
Yeah. Unless you say
nobody
like
was wearing tuxes. It wasn't like black tie or anything like that, but it was like show up and like have fun. And it was actually really amazing to see the array of awesome outfits that appeared at my wedding. I was like, this is so fun. Everybody got to just like have fun and like push their own boundaries with something that made them feel like themselves, but elevated. It was so cool to see it.
My mom asked me like a couple of times through the night, like, who is that guy in the ascot? And I'm like, it's always going to be Zach Barnett.
Yes, Zach Barnett was in the ascot. Yes, he was.
Who is that man in the ascot?
There was Girl in the Yellow Dress. That was my cousin.
Maiden. The maiden that my mother chased with a torch.
I think the chasing was like reciprocal. Like they were having a fucking ball.
I'm sure. But the only times I saw my mom was when she was chasing your cousin or
with my battery powered candles.
Yeah, the battery powered candles. And I was like, you look like a witch chasing a maiden. I love my mother. Obviously, I love your cousin. She's incredible.
Long hair, just like blowing behind her.
Like, objectively, she looked like a hag chasing a virgin through the woods with torches.
Well, your mother is not a hag and my cousin is not a virgin, so you're wrong on both counts.
I'm saying, on paper, it did not look like that.
It was so funny.
Of course she's not a virgin.
The gays in their custom suits that they had matching shoes for, like the floral suits.
With their choreographed dance.
Those were different gays.
Oh, Jesus.
I know. I wish if I had a fucking time machine, that's the day I would go back to every minute.
God, what the fuck are we talking about? Hudson Valley.
Hidden Valley Ranch.
Hidden Valley. Jesus Christ. Okay. Fan pick from Bonnie and Clyde. Amanda, what is our wine crime pairing for Hudson Valley Hoodlums / flashbacks to our weddings?
I fully forgot that we were like on a work call. I went to a place where it was just you and me chatting.
Yes. I'm been there.
I'm so sorry about that.
I've been there myself.
I'm going to come back now.
Like you're like, she's not a virgin.
She won't be mad.
Hi, Priya.
She won't be mad. Pre. So I am shouting out a very cool winery in the Hudson Valley region. And we will talk a little bit more about the Hudson Valley region. But it is like an OG hardcore viticultural area. And the Ben Marl Winery has been kicking for like almost a century now.
Damn,
no,
Ben
that's
Marl.
Not true. Not almost a century, but many decades. Ben Marl Winery.
Cool.
They have a winery that you can visit. They have like events and all of that fun stuff. But then they also have a really beautiful inventory of wines that they produce and sell. They have a red blend. They have a Cab Franc. They have a white blend. They have a Malbec. They have like reserve Chardonnays, reserve Rieslings. They have a stainless steel Chardonnay that I actually really want to try.
Ooh.
Dry rosé. And their bottles retail for like, most of them are around $20, $20 to $25 for this like beautiful Hudson Valley, New York wine. They also have a wine club. I just like really wanted to feature a great Hudson Valley winery, and they are so highly regarded and have such a cool inventory. So definitely check them out. Their website is benmarl.com, Benmarl. It's all one word. It's like the last name of the people who founded it. And I believe they do ship some of the wine that you can buy, but it just depends on your state. But if you live in the area, the grounds are stunning. Like, damn, the pictures, it legit reminded me of Tuscany. I was like, this is in New York? Damn. And like, I lived in upstate New York, and I know that this isn't technically upstate, like it's Catskills area, kind of whatever.
Okay.
But like, it's all that to say, it's very, very beautiful north of Manhattan. Mm-hmm. And I was even shook by some of the photos of this winery. Like, it just looks so gorgeous.
I feel like a lot of people say upstate New York to mean not Manhattan or like New York City.
Yeah, pretty much.
Boroughs and stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. It's widely used. But then real upstate New York people are like pissed if you're too far south because they don't want to be lumped in with that. Oh, well, everyone
fucking
in Manhattan
fair.
just calls everybody upstate. I agree.
First of all,
Rochester bitch here. I agree.
It's a long state too.
It's like, huge.
Actual upstate New York.
That's like
is
saying everything else,
far up.
Everything north of Minneapolis, St. Paul is Duluth. Like, no, it's fucking not. There's 3.5 hours in between there, bitch.
Yeah. Also, like times
Central
two.
Minnesota exists.
Mm-hmm.
As does Western, Eastern, Northern, Southern, Southwestern, and Southeastern Minnesota as all like distinct regions. It's a big ass state. So Minnesotans really do relate to the New Yorkers in that way. We're just like you.
We got you. We see you. We're holding space for you.
You're just a red-blooded American who wants to crack a vape and talk about true crime just like us. So I did a little more peeking at the Hudson Valley viticultural region and found this really cool article in Forbes magazine, which, like, say what you will about Forbes, they actually have a lot of really fascinating shit about wine that I appreciate. So it is a resource that I use frequently. They say, I pulled a couple of my favorite parts from this article that they wrote, but the Hudson Valley, expanding upward after a 45-minute drive north out of Manhattan, became the United States' first wine region when, lore says, French Huguenot settlers planted grapevines more than 300 years ago in what is now Ulster County. In 1982, the zone earned itself an official AVA, the Hudson River region, today rich in quality hybrids and suitable vinifera. So like a lot of different grapes, a lot of hybrid grapes, which we know can withstand.
Vinifera.
Yeah.
I like that word.
The hybrid grapes specifically can withstand colder temperatures.
Mm-hmm.
The Hudson River region has been referred to as one of the most complex geological regions in the world, notes the New York Wine and Grape Foundation. The grape lands in the area are in a geological division known as the Taconic Province. Glacial deposits of shale, slate, schist, schist, S-C-H-I-S-T, schist, and limestone.
Sheehan.
Mm-hmm. While the Hudson delivers Atlantic Ocean breezes here and its own waters serve as a warmer counterpart to winter's freezing air temperatures, these wines are also shaped by New York's shortest growing season. Because New York is cold, but so like the growing season in the region is short, but the very specific geographical and like geological aspects of the region prolong just that spot's wine growing time because of how like warm water and warm air and like it's so fucking nutty.
So it's not logically like just because of its, latitude, for example, it's it wouldn't be a logical wine growing region, but because of those specific circumstances,
that it's like, well, if you fucking watch Parks and Rec, it's like Pawnee and Eagleton.
Stop
I know,
targeting me.
I know, I'm sorry, but it's really starting to get in the way of our friendship, and I've made this clear.
I know. I just don't have that many hours to devote away from New Housewives.
You have a kid or whatever. No, I get it. I'm not
talking about Parenthood. I'm talking about New Housewives.
That's also fair.
The weekly new episode Bravo schedule.
Yeah, it's grueling.
It's grueling.
It's like having a second kid.
I gotta get the flu. I gotta get something that just knocks me out for like a full week.
Mm-hmm.
Fingers crossed that I can watch Parks and Rec.
You'll get there.
I will.
So this region has spans of 180 to 195 days in their like time frame for growing.
Gestational period.
Yep. The AVA's longest seasons are for scale, the Finger Lakes shortest. So it's possible they're explaining like the Finger Lakes are really close, but the weather is just so different. So they say here it's possible on a late March drive past sun-strewn, still leafless trees on curvy 2-lane roads to suddenly wonder if you've noticed a few pretty snowflakes, then watch them gather rapidly into a snowstorm, complete with icy roads flanked by Columbia County's soft and blurry slopes. Scenic, but not a helpful weather clue. A half-hour drive south, same county, not a trace of white.
Oh.
So you could drive 40. It reminds me of like when I was driving from Phoenix to Flagstaff in Arizona. It's like 1 hour you're in the desert and then you're in like lush evergreen with snow on the ground, getting closer to the Grand Canyon. Like it's kind of a trip to experience.
Like the whole state of Colorado.
Yeah, exactly. The New York State Wine Farm License Program was launched by New York Governor Hugh Carey in 1976, and it issued its first permit to Ben Marl Vineyards and Winery in Ulster County's town of Marlborough on the river's west bank in the AVA's southern portion. Land under vine since at least the 18th century. So yeah, I guess it has been around for like a century.
Wow.
Owned then by Mark Miller and bought in 2008 by the Spacciarelli family. America's oldest professional vineyard, writes Tessa Edick and Kathleen Wilcox in their 2017 Hudson Valley Wine, A History of Taste and Terroir. This particular region had been growing grapes since 1772, and when it was incorporated as the village of Marlborough in 1788, the powers that be selected a cluster of grapes as its symbol because they'd been growing there for so long. So I just thought that stuff was really interesting. That Forbes article is really cool.
I never would have known that New York State has like such a varying terroir, as it
does,
were.
and winemaking in New York State is like very good. Very, very good. My dad worked for Canandaigua Wines for several years, and it also an absolutely beautiful vineyard, like not far from where our house was, just outside of Rochester. And we went to vineyards all the time. It's so gorgeous. It's such a beautiful state. Like really, if you get a chance to explore it outside of just New York City, it is worth it. It's just beautiful.
Lovely.
So yeah, I have a shorter case today, so I thought I would just like give you some more information about the Hudson Valley viticultural region.
That is very helpful because I would never have chosen to explore that particular region when it comes to wines, but I mean, sounds very dynamic.
I often shy away from cold weather wines. Like I like Minnesota wines, but I don't particularly love them. Like they're just not usually as dry as I prefer. But I've always really liked New York wines. And it's like the weather isn't vastly different. Obviously, we get colder here. But it was interesting to read about like how specific that spot is. Now it's like, oh, well, that makes sense. There's so much aligning to make it like a perfect spot for cold weather growing.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Anyway, I just thought that was fucking cool, guys. So
very cool.
If it's my rabbit hole, that means it has to be your rabbit hole. You made your bed.
Yeah, my hole is your hole.
My hole is your hole. So with that, should we take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsors and then come back and get into the criming of it all?
That's a great idea.
Let's do it. If you're like me, you sign up for something, you forget about it after the trial period ends, you really wanted to, binge that TV show, and then you binge through it and you're like, oh, geez, I'm charged. I got charged. Month after month after month, I have forgotten to cancel that subscription. Listen, the subscriptions are there, but you're not using them. In fact, I just learned that 85% of people have at least one paid subscription going unused each month.
I have more than one.
I mean, yeah, I certainly did. But thanks to Rocket Money, I can see all of my subscriptions in one place and cancel the ones I'm not using anymore. And now I'm saving more money.
Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. We all need to grow our savings.
Yeah.
Let's be real. You can see all of your subscriptions in one place. You can know exactly where your money is going. It is so user-friendly.
Mm-hmm.
For subscriptions you don't want anymore, Rocket Money can help you cancel them. It's a millennial's dream. Rocket Money's dashboard gives you a clear view of your expenses across all of your accounts, so you can easily create a personalized budget with custom categories to keep your spending on track. You can see your monthly spending trends in each category. So it's like, oh, I'm spending 85% of my money on like
wine
delivery, food delivery. Maybe I should cook more at home.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a really easy way to like get your goals together. You also get alerts if bills increase in price, or if there's unusual spending activity, or if you're close to going over your budget. It truly parents you in that regard, and that's what I need. Their new goals feature automatically saves money for you, so you don't have to think about it. Pay off credit card debt, put away money for a house, or just build your savings. Rocket Money makes it so easy. They will even try to negotiate lower bills for you. They automatically scan your bills to find opportunities to save, and then you can ask them to negotiate for you. Rocket Money will deal with customer service, so you do not have to. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features.
So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/gals today. That's rocketmoney.com/gals, rocketmoney.com/gals. Today's episode is brought to you by Ollie. Clean, fresh nutrition your dog needs in 5 flavors they'll absolutely flip over. You don't have to be a veterinary nutritionist to know that feeding your dog real whole foods with minimal processing is one of the best choices you can make for their health. A perfectly portioned whole fresh food diet has been proven to extend your pup's life by 2.5 years. Who doesn't want more time with their best friend? With absolutely no harmful fillers, no preservatives, Ollie is made in U.S. kitchens with ingredients carefully sourced from trusted growers and producers around the world. Because the time between Ollie's gentle cooking and your dog chowing down is minimal. They don't need preservatives to extend shelf life. With 5 protein-first recipes like fresh beef with sweet potatoes, fresh turkey with blueberries, or fresh lamb with cranberries, yum. You might start thinking, dang, my dog eats better than I do. And that's probably true when it comes to Ollie.
Their foods are like real meat. They're real meals for your real dog. So this is how it works. First, you go to their website and you introduce them to your pup. So you can fill out Ollie's 30-second quiz and they will create a customized meal plan based on your dog's weight, activity level, other health information. Then they give you expert recommendations. Ollie crunches the numbers and recommends the right recipes and daily portions for your precious pup based on hundreds of thousands of real dog results. Then you get your starter box. For any first-timers, Ollie will send out your pup's first box with 2 weeks worth of meals and a guide of how to gradually switch them over to their new diet. They're gonna love it. Then you customize your plan. Ollie offers 3 meal plans to choose from, so you can choose between a full fresh plan, fresh topper plan, or a mixed plan with their freshly baked recipes for your special fur baby. They also have treats and supplements. Honestly, just looking at their website, it's like everything you need for like a healthy dog
I know
is available through Ollie. It's a very smart idea, and you're going to feel really good about treating your dog frankly, probably better than you treat yourself.
Seriously, I had 16 beautiful years with Callie, and I really wish I had known about Ollie when she was with us, because like this would have been perfect for her. So don't sleep on this. and take good care of our sweet fur babies. Give your pup a fresh start this new year by letting them taste test a personalized meal plan with Ollie. Head to ollie.com/gals, tell them about your dog, and use code GALS to get 60% off your first box of meals when you subscribe today. Plus, they offer a clean bowl guarantee on the first box. So if you're not completely satisfied, you'll get your money back. That's OLLIE.com/gals and enter code GALS to get 60% off your first box. Start your dog's new year off right with Ollie. Lucy.
Yes.
What is our background, maybe psych, maybe a little case for Hudson Valley Hoodlums?
Handsome Hudson Valley
Handsome
Hoodlums.
Hidden Valley Ranch crimes. Hoodlums.
So I wanted to explore because born and raised Midwest, Minnesota to Iowa, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, travel's not
You've
the same
traveled,
thing.
but
Traveled,
you lived.
but living.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really sure what the Hudson Valley was. I know where it is and like kind of what it is, but like I wanted to sort of explore like, let's define what the fuck we're talking about first.
Mm-hmm.
So the Hudson Valley is the river valley of the Hudson River, which stretches from like Albany and Troy in upstate New York, southward towards Yonkers and New York City.
Yep.
It was originally called the Mahicantuck, which means the river that flows two ways.
Beautiful.
I think because it's kind of split at the top and it's kind of split at the bottom a little bit, but as white people are wont to do, it was renamed in the 1600s because of a British man named Henry Hudson. And the only reason I'm going to go into this colonizer's history is because the way he died is sort of spectacular.
That's the only reason to compel us to talk about a colonizer.
Yeah. Pretty much. It's like, how interesting could you be? Oh, wait, the way you died.
Yeah, cool. Your career, but how did he die?
So not a lot of information about him because of just simply the year that he was born, which was 1565-ish.
God damn.
Not a lot of record keeping, record keeping.
My case is from the 1800s. Yep, and the record keeping was not great, so I ran into similar issues, but yeah,
the mid 16th century.
It was the 16th.
It was the 16th in Britain, presumably, and then he disappeared in June of 1611 after his crew staged a mutiny in Hudson Bay. Which are you familiar with Hudson Bay?
I mean, I think so.
If you picture North America, like with Canada, Greenland, blah, 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 it's that big ass hole in the middle.
The cutout. Yeah.
It's the cutout. Yeah. It's enormous. It's a sea.
Yeah, it is, basically.
And it has a weird little penis at the bottom.
It does have a little penis. Not me looking at a map now.
Oh, there's a picture on the drive.
Oh, thank God. Of course you're going to.
It's just enormous. It's just like it's like what mostly shapes North America, which is horrifying to me. So June 1611, his crew stages the mutiny, and they basically kicked Hudson off of this ship because I don't know if I explained this. He was like a well-known explorer of this area, which we'll kind of get to. But they kicked him off his ship with his teenage son and like 7 of his loyalists. They put him in basically a dinghy and were like, here's some food and a couple pots and pans. See ya. And then they raised their sails and got the fuck out of there and went home.
That sucks. Bye, bitch.
Bye. There were some, like, basically rumors among the local Inuit communities about Hudson and his son, like, reaching a village, and then, like, Hudson died, and they sort of, like, hung out with his son for a little bit. But, I mean, obviously, Inuit rumors, no one at the time was taking this seriously. So it is really, truly unknown what happened to them and to him.
Yikes.
But like I said, he was very well known for planning and carrying out expeditions exploring the Northern Passage, which we've all seen that show on Netflix.
I know,
the Erebus and the Terror, and yes, your drunk dive.
Yeah. No, that was a regular episode.
What was the topic?
It was like maritime murders or something, I think. Or it wasn't that long ago.
I know. That's why I think it was a drunk dive.
I really don't think it was.
Okay, well, either way, looking through the Northern Passage, trying to find a connecting route from like Europe to Asia.
Mm-hmm.
And he was so good at it that more than one company hired him to look for it. So he was just on like successive expeditions.
Lead crimes. It was lead crimes that I talked about it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what it was.
But this is like sort of similar-ish time period, at least as far as like Arctic expeditions go.
Yep. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So also, the reason why they sort of like discovered these Inuit rumors that I mentioned is because there were people searching for the Erebus and the Terror. And the indigenous people were like, we told that guy like fucking 100 years ago. That's what happened. Nothing, like, whatever. Yes, we know. You don't know.
Right.
Along with Hudson Bay and Hudson Strait in Canada, many other topographical features and landmarks are named for Henry Hudson. So those are the Hudson River in New York and New Jersey, as we are talking about, and Hudson County, New Jersey, the Henry Hudson Bridge, the Henry Hudson Parkway, and the city of Hudson, New York.
Okay.
Kind of only throwing that out there in case you live near or in one of those places and you're like, oh, I didn't know who this was named after.
There you go.
Anyway, fuck that guy. Sorry about everything.
But how you died was super...
pretty epic.
Epic.
There is a photo on the drive, which will, again, later be on the blog, of an artist rendition of him, like, floating away with... It's an artist's rendition, and that's his supposed teenage son, and, like, the look of horror in their eyes.
Oh. That sucks.
Look at his eye. Like, zoom in on his eyes. It's awful.
Yeah. He does not look okay. And look, the guy laying also in the boat, just staring into nothing, like fully disassociating with a blanket in his lap.
He's like, I was loyal to this fucking dude, and that's what happened to
his
me.
eyes say everything. Everything.
It's so dramatic.
Fuck. That's a badass painting.
I know. I mean, it kind of says everything, with like the icebergs in the background, and
that's art in a nutshell.
That's art, baby.
That was real art.
So, touching on some pre-Columbian things here, this area, meaning the Hudson Valley, has been occupied by indigenous peoples for a very long time, like over 13,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
The primary tribes were the Lenape, the Wapinger, and the Mohican. Mm-hmm. There was a northeastern clan that kind of moved into the region that spoke a Lenape dialect, which was known as Muncie. So those people became known as the Muncie.
That Muncie, Indiana.
We'll get to Indiana.
Oh, geez. Okay.
So it was these Muncie people that greeted a certain Giovanni de Verrazzano. Ooh. Ever heard of him? Probably not.
Okay.
He was an Italian explorer for France. So France France hired him to go to the New World to like find places for France to colonize, basically. So the Muncie people greeted this guy who they knew as like a foreign white explorer. Mm-hmm. They met at like a very specific narrow part of the Hudson River in 1524.
Dang.
So currently there is a bridge there, a famous bridge called the Verrazzano Narrows Bridge.
Cool.
Because that's where the Muncie people like greeted these explorers. In 1524, Jesus.
Yeah.
And then, of course, in 1609, Henry Hudson decided that he had discovered the place, and then that's where they like renamed the river or whatever the fuck.
Yup.
During the late Woodland period, which is about 1,000 years before European contact, it's estimated that the Lenape population was about 10,000 people.
Wow.
It took about 200 years for almost the entire population of the area to be killed by violence and disease.
God.
Other tribes, I think, don't quote me on this, including the Munsee, or at least parts of the Munsee peoples, just given the Indiana thing, they first moved west, like to western New York, and then they moved kind of like down and around to Indiana and then up to Wisconsin in the 1830s. They were basically just trying to get away from the fucking white people.
Yeah.
Just like kind of.
Yeah. Driven out of their own lands.
Yeah. In the period leading up to European colonization, these peoples were agrarian in addition to being hunters. So they would grow corn, beans, squash. They would also bury caches of food, like underground in case of crop failure.
Like a cold preservation using like the ground?
Sort of, yeah.
To keep it cold?
They produced a surplus of food. So they would fish extra fish, like, harvest extra vegetables. They would smoke the fish. They would dry the meat. They would dry the vegetables. So they were preserving on their own, like with their own methods before even putting them in the ground storage. Yep. So they were preserving them, and then they would put them in these pits in the ground, and the pits were lined with bark, like tree bark, birch bark, to kind of help the preservation. I think that would just kind of keep moisture out of that area.
Yeah, moisture, direct sunlight, temperature fluctuations.
Yeah, and then they just like buried underground, so it's kind of like a cooler.
Yeah.
Little Stanley cooler.
That's
no moisture.
Brilliant.
Preserve the cold because it's underground. It's going to be much cooler.
This is like engineering minds have just been a thing since humans were humaning. And it will always blow my mind, whether it's talking about somebody like figuring out that you can essentially make a cooler in your backyard with a hole in the ground and specific food preservation techniques, or figuring out how to build like a bridge with every bit of modern day technology. It still blows my mind. I don't know how y'all's brains work like that, but thank God. Yeah.
I mean, engineering breakthroughs that happen before we kind of assume that they did. I mean, for one thing, it points to the racism that is rampant in our educational system.
1,000%.
Oh, aliens built the pyramids.
No.
It wasn't just slave labor and some really smart people put together. I don't yeah.
What am I, a room full of women doing arithmetic?
What do I look like?
What do I look like to you?
A room full of women.
A bunch of women doing arithmetic in a trench coat.
Bunch of STEM girls. Jesus Christ.
I'll never STEM.
I'll STEM, but not STEM.
Correct.
So they had these very sophisticated methods that I'm confident no one paid attention to until relatively recently. And I'm also confident that we are not fully appreciating all of the ingenuity that they had in their day-to-day whatever. So they also lived in long houses, which are exactly what you think they are.
Okay, that's why I was not going to ask.
Sometimes with multiple families under the same long roof.
Cool.
One of the longest longhouses that they found in the Hudson Valley was 29 feet wide and 110 feet long.
That's a long, skinny house.
So I Googled what is 110 feet long because I wanted to
you really want to
visualize it. I mean, I understand that
wide.
That's like an 11-story building on its side. I know that it's long, but I want to know how long, So I Googled it and AI suggested a blue whale.
Huh.
But upon fact checking, I learned that a blue whale is usually not more than 79 feet long. The longest blue whale confirmed at 98 feet long, still too short. But if you think about an exceptionally large blue whale, that is the length.
Wow.
And then as far as the width, which I rounded up to 30 feet, it said 10 yoga mats stacked
or like end to end.
The long way.
Yeah,
the horizontal. No, side to side, assuming that they were 3 feet wide.
Wait, what? What? No.
It was like yoga mats stacked this way, assuming that the yoga mats are 3 feet wide. 10 of them would equal 30 feet.
I'm basically picturing like the
AI.
The depth of my house. I don't have a very big house.
I don't know. The Googling was stupid. It came up with the dumbest results. Also, AI. Okay. A yoga mat being 3 feet wide standard. 10 of them stacked not the logical way is roughly the width of the longest longhouse found in the greater Hudson River Valley area.
Clearly AI is killing us all in more ways than one, because it's like so annoying to get that AI suggestion at the top of the page. It's like, no, I just want the list of the links that I want to click so I can read from the human people that wrote the articles. Like, that's what I want. I want that.
The spam that we've been getting lately that I texted you about earlier,
so
the
much
homeschool
spam.
Teachers and the wanting to,
it's bizarre.
It's annoying, but like moreover, it's mystifying because it's bizarre and I don't understand the angle. I don't quite get it. I'm not quite there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we'll save that conversation because obviously there's so much problematic shit. And I'm scared of the robots, so
scared of the robots.
Freaks me the fuck out. It's killing the environment. It's like, we're so fucking cooked, man.
All right. Let's get back to our baseline heart rate by talking about the Revolutionary War.
I'm going to hit my space flute again.
So this area, Hudson River Valley, blah, 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 was explored, as we said, by Hudson, who was looking for the famed / alleged Northwest Passage, which was an alleged shortcut from Europe to Asia. Surprise, surprise. Hudson realized that realized that the Hudson River was not, in fact, the passage he was looking for. So the Dutch, who quote unquote owned the area, decided that it would be lucrative for the fur trade. Even though this wasn't their Northwest Passage that they were looking for, they were like, oh shit, this is probably important enough that we have to lay claim to it because it's going to expand our fur trade immensely, which it did, of course. Mm-hmm. And they established a colony named New Netherland, which again reminds me of like a type of Brazilian.
Yeah, I know. I was like, that sounds like a shapewear company.
New Netherland.
New Netherland.
Like crotchless underwear.
Yes. Could apply in so many ways.
New Netherland. It makes my crotch feel that minty way when you just get it all clear and it feels like you just rub toothpaste all over your vulva. Do you know what I'm saying?
What products are you using?
No, you just get rid of all the hair. So like the wind, like the air, itself. It's like, ooh, it's minty.
I thought you were talking about like up in there. And I was like, don't use like mentholy soaps on your hoo-ha.
No, I'm talking vulva. I tried to be specific. It obviously went over your head.
Yeah, well, I don't know anything about anatomy. I only know I could pick out a mons pubis in a lineup anytime. That I can handle. I can identify a mons.
Yep.
I know roughly
I'd spot a mons from a mile away.
Mons from a mile away. I know roughly where a belly button is. Obviously different for everybody. And that's kind of it. Like, my pancreas is the center of my life. Gun to my head, I could not point to the spot on my body where that is. I don't fucking know.
I think it's in your left wrist.
I know it's somewhere in the center, like in this meat. But
it's in your thorax.
But where the fuck is that? Where the fuck is that, bitch? Like, what the fuck?
Your whole torso. Okay.
Okay. Oh, I'm the idiot. Okay. Oh, actually, it's in your thorax. Idiot.
The thorax is like the part of the bug that's like their main bug body part. It's called the thorax. So I just call your torso your thorax. Okay, let's move on. Your pancreas is in your big bug body.
Yeah. Somewhere in there.
It's in there.
Somewhere in there.
Under all that chitin.
There were like more years than I want to admit as a diabetic child where I thought your pancreas and your appendix, never got those straight. Same organ. They're not.
You can definitely live without one of them.
Correct.
Super not the other.
Girl, I was not a science biology girly, okay? High level concepts. This is the general area in which my pancreas lives.
It's an organ located in my body.
Yes.
Probably.
Mine barely is, but yeah.
Well, you got your pump, so sort of not even.
It kind of lives outside my body. Yo, I'm holding my pancreas in my fragile hands.
I got an external organ.
Reminds me, I should check my blood sugar. We're good.
Okay, did it become disconnected again?
No, but I hate when that. I swear I'm like doing it in my sleep. It doesn't happen that often, but every once in a while.
The gray man.
First of all, it was Pale Man. Second of all, don't you even fucking put that into the universe. That bitch has not been back since my opioid moment.
Pale Man comes in with his long gray fingers and just disconnects your little pump from your little body.
It would be very Pale Man behavior for that to be happening.
Yeah.
That's very Pale Man coded, but I think I'm Pale Man. I think that's the reveal.
The big reveal. The Scooby-Doo.
Y'all, the Shyamalan twist.
It's the hotel, the innkeeper.
I'm Pale Man. I'm sabotaging myself.
It's the head of whatever bank holds your mortgage.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, back to the fucking Hudson River. Okay. In 1664, the English decided that they couldn't contain their jealousy any longer. So they invaded the Dutch's New Netherland, which sounds not consensual.
No.
And then they took it over. They renamed it New York, whatever. Everyone's renaming everything. The Hudson River was essentially the interior highway that allowed ocean vessels to travel as far north as Albany. So it was very crucial.
Well, yeah.
But at the same time, it was like a barrier for like east-west commerce. So then they add a bunch of fucking ferries beginning in the 18th century.
Now, when you say ferries, you mean Ferries. Canada brought in a bunch of fucking ferries. It's like, Jesus
okay, I didn't know that's how that sounded.
Fucking
ferries.
Joe Rogan's podcast suddenly?
Ferries. Ferries.
We were in a meeting earlier today with our Spotify rep. Like just like going over our year in review, and
oh God, we were like, what did she say?
We were like looking at spikes and what episodes did more, and it was just like, yeah, those are the controversial ones. I was like, we're getting ready to go full Rogan. Like, are you ready, Spotify? We know you're ready. We're just gonna start pumping out right-wing content so we can get our bag.
This is our Trojan horse.
The gals sell out. Yeah, we were in the Trojan horse for 8 years, and now we're finally ready to pull the mask off.
Joke's on you.
Yeah.
We've been posing as really progressive feminists.
My hair's not blue. None of these piercings are real.
It's a filter.
I draw my tattoos on meticulously every morning to maintain this image.
That's why we're so behind on recording.
That's why I am always late. I'm so glad I can finally be myself. What a win. What a win for us. What a win for America.
It's a win for the new America. Okay. Revolutionary War, Hudson Valley played a major part. Some sources called it a nexus of conflict. So lots of shit was happening around there. There were battles from Manhattan to White Plains, Kingston, Stony Point. After the Battle of Saratoga, if that sounds familiar, it's because it was like a major turning point in the Revolutionary War.
Okay.
They decided to build a giant chain across the Hudson River.
To just cut off ships?
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit.
And when I say giant chain, I mean giant chain. Okay, so for whatever reason, my segment has a lot of like visual kind of engineering, mathematical
like
sizing.
Those like terrifying ship chains that I've seen in like shipping museums that like each link is like the size of like a 6-foot man.
Well, okay, it's not that big, but I'll get to it.
And that shit triggers like that same fear I have of windmills. It's just like, it's too big.
You've got the megalophobia,
yes,
babe.
it's too fucking big.
It's too big. These are very big, but they're not quite that big.
All right.
But they did use chains. I've told you Ben's helping me with my notes, and he's such a fucking dork. He did want me to note that there was also a great chain that crossed the Golden Horn, which shielded the city of Constantinople and protected them from naval invasions for hundreds of years until the city's eventual fall in 1483. And it was
that's
thus
badass.
Renamed Istanbul.
Badass. I mean,
so
yeah,
those
the
might
chain
have been the
method makes
bigger
sense.
chains. Yeah. But Washington called this Hudson River chain the Key of America. And basically it blocked the Hudson from Fort Constitution to West Point. So it blocked a chunk of the river.
Yeah, it fucks up trade. They're an establishing nation. Don't fuck with their trade routes.
So General William Heath described the chain as he supervised its removal in November of 1780. So, quote, the links of this chain were probably 12 inches wide and 18 inches long. So that's still really big, but it's not
big.
A 6-foot man.
No, but you know what kind of chains I'm talking about.
I do. It's too much.
Like there's like a ship that's just permanently in the harbor in Duluth on Lake Superior. That's now a museum, and it like has one of those, like keeping it connected.
Too much.
It's
too fucking
the ship
much.
on its own. I feel like, because that's like, I can understand that that's like a structure that people are supposed to be inside of. It doesn't freak me out. That's why I'm not like afraid of a house or like a tall building.
Yeah,
but
no,
like
it's things that
don't
shouldn't
make that like freak me out being that big. It's very specific.
And like maybe I know I have people in my life, and I sort of have this a little bit too, like having a little bit of a fear or a lot of fear of things that are just too big that don't make sense. It's not just the object itself, but it's the force that it suggests. Like the wind or the waves, the water, whatever those huge chain links are suggesting is actually the scariest part.
The power of what could move that windmill, what could rock that chain, what would require that chain to exist. Bitch, I'd never thought about that. I'm never going outside again.
Just a new fear for you.
Holy
Just
shit.
a new angle to look at your phobia from.
Wait.
You're almost a banana, bitch.
Don't.
Okay, so General William Heath said, quote, the links of this chain, 12, blah, 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 about 2 inches wide, like the iron was about 2 inches square. So the material itself was like
the chunk
big
that like
around.
made up the link. It's like this big.
It was this big.
This is the content you're here for, right? It's this big. Finally, I can do jack off hands and have people see me.
It's been a while.
It's been a minute since I jacked off the air.
Blue-balled.
Feels good.
This heavy chain was buoyed up by very large logs of perhaps 16 or more feet long, and they were a little pointed at the ends to lessen their opposition to the force of the water on flood and ebb. So the ends were tapered or rounded or whatever, just so there would be less surface tension friction with the water.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't like twist.
Yep.
The logs were placed at short distances from each other. The chain carried over them and made fast to each by staples to prevent their shifting.
Man, and the engineering.
And there were a number of anchors dropped at distances with cables made fast to the chain to give it greater stability. So they anchored this huge chain across the river to prevent naval incursions to the interior of the newly created state of New York.
Yeah, and this would have been before the Industrial Revolution, so it's not like they had factories to produce that chain. Like, that's like a fucking metalsmith with heat you can't even fathom to be able to bend metal that fucking thick into a chain link. Like, bitch, holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
The
and
labor.
It stretched across at 2 different sections of the river.
So and
I think the river is like really, it's a big river.
Well, if they're stopping ships that are capable of getting through there, then yeah, that's a big fucking, at least section of the river.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it does get skinnier when it's like going into Canada, and that's why they're saying that it can make it as far north as Albany, even though I think the river itself still has connections all the way up to the Hudson Valley.
Yes.
Or the Hudson Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But they can't sustain like a ship like that for trade.
Correct. Yeah. So funny you should bring up the Industrial Revolution.
Oh, well, where there's a fucking river, there's an industrial revolution.
Do shit.
Fucking ruining everything and poisoning our water. So do tell.
That and. So during the Industrial Revolution, the Hudson Valley became known both for American Romanticism as like a art, like painting style, as well as a kind of Gothic region in more of like the literary end of things. So like Legend of Sleepy Hollow, Salem, all the Salem lore. Once the Erie Canal was completed, which opened up a waterway from the Great Lakes all the way to New York City and therefore the Atlantic Ocean.
It goes through Rochester, and there are hazings at schools to dare each other to jump in it because you will likely get a rash because it's so dirty.
The Hudson River?
No, the Erie Canal.
Oh.
The Erie Dip.
Sick. Stop it.
It's nasty.
Oh.
I've taken many strolls along the Erie Canal.
Why?
There can be because it's actually quite beautiful, like through these cute little towns. But, and they'll have like shops and little like cute things that you can do along the canal. But I'm like, the hat days, there is an odor.
Ugh.
Or at least there was in 2007. I can tell you that.
That reminds me of what's that weird little river in New York that's like the Walganis or
Gowanus. Mm-hmm.
That's gross.
So we're told. I mean, so we learned during, was it Brooklyn Crimes that we talked about the Gowanus River?
Yeah, something.
Or canal, whatever the fuck it is. I don't know. Y'all just really responded that it was nasty. Well, I don't know if it's a river or a canal or what, but that's what
a tributary.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I don't know that either. Okay.
It's unincorporated maritime area.
It's liquid running down a slightly lower elevated area.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the Erie Canal was open so we could get from the Great Lakes all the way to the Atlantic. So much trade was opened up. So the Hudson Valley area became very industrialized. Iron, textiles, and especially brick were all major industries in the area. So the Hudson River Valley was bricked up.
Cute. Love it.
There were over 130 factories, and it was at one point the brick-making capital of the world.
My God.
Over a billion bricks a year were being manufactured there by the end of the 19th century.
Wow. That's a laugh you can hang your hat on, as they say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, that song. So some notable families of the Hudson Valley include the Vanderbilts, who built a neoclassical mansion in Hyde Park in 1899. The Roosevelts also had an estate there. Washington Irving, who wrote The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, has a Dutch plantation-style home built around a smaller cottage, which sounds so sweet.
Yeah, I would flag plantation-style home.
Dutch plantation.
It's, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, regardless of the architecture, a house built around a courtyard that houses a smaller cottage
sounds like fucking heavenly.
Is so fucking cute.
What a she shed.
Seriously. Also, Martin Van Buren, who was the president with the fucking mutton chops. Yeah. Also, that helped. That helped. Not you
President
remember.
Actor Andrew Garfield. If you were at trivia, you know what we're talking about.
The Garfield. What was the Garfield's name?
James?
James Garfield.
Hey, Siri.
Whatever.
Who is President James Garfield?
James Abram Garfield was the 20th president of the United States. Serving from
Suck it.
Andrew Garfield just sounded right, obviously.
It always does.
It always does. Sounds right, looks right.
Looks right.
Okay, so Mutton Chop's president had an estate at Kinderhook named Lindenwald, where he lived after he retired.
Okay.
I also think that Martin Van Buren is the guy who got the word okay, because from what I learned in 8th grade American government is that okay, meaning like thumbs up, okay, good to go, stands for Old Kinderhook. And it's what the president's nickname was Kinderhook. So they called him Old Kinderhook. So okay was like his stamp of approval on stuff.
Oh.
So his aides would just write okay on stuff. Okay.
Interesting. All right. Wow. It's weird, like, what things will trend and then just become part of, enduring
life.
Everyday vernacular.
Yeah. Okay. Can you think of anything like more pervasive for like?
No.
Yeah.
Truly, yeah. But I just never really thought of it as initials because I always write it OKAY.
Well, you only do that because of the letters okay.
Yeah. No, I know. I know that. But it's just, I never thought about it as like, oh, maybe it's initials for something because I just never write it that way. That's like.
And that's just what our teacher told us in 8th grade.
Maybe it's not true.
It might not be true, but that's what I learned. And that kind of makes a lot of sense.
It's kind of a cool tidbit. I hope it's true. Don't add us. We don't care enough.
I don't care. Let me believe it. Let me fucking live in this reality where OK stands for Old Kinderhook, which refers to Martin Van Buren.
Everything's a simulation anyway. So like, who
Does
cares
it matter
what was downloaded into her brain versus yours? Okay.
Doesn't matter if I'm right or wrong.
Okay.
Get a life. But actually, if you do know, send me a message. I'm actually curious. Okay.
Where the fuck is my fate? I'm sorry. I'd like to formally apologize. It was actually in my pocket the entire time. But actually, if you do know the origin of okay, I just really
changed
like
up my prescription medication so I cannot be held liable for any of my outbursts.
Terms and conditions apply.
Floyd in Ontario.
Everything is fucking void in Ontario, y'all. What is your deal?
What is with Ontario? What's the deal with Ontario?
We're so fucking unhinged tonight. Okay, we got this. We can do this. We're only an hour in.
It's a past 5 p.m. recording. We're gonna be insane. Okay.
No.
Here are some fun facts about the Hudson Valley, as if we haven't covered enough already.
It's been an hour and we're only on fun facts.
I'm almost to my case, which isn't that long. Okay, it's fine. So the Hudson River is part of the Great Loop. You're going to want to hear this.
I'm listening.
Which is a 6,000-mile waterway trek that, like, you shouldn't try unless you're a very experienced, like, boater, sailor.
Yeah, babe, you don't have to tell me. I'm never going to try
wet
that.
Enthusiast.
6,000 miles?
6,000.
I'm good. Bye.
Okay, so basically it goes from the Hudson River up to the Erie Canal into the Great Lakes. So we have Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, Lake Huron, Lake Michigan. And then you go from there down the Chicago River, I think, to the Mississippi River, down to the Gulf of America.
Oh, don't say it.
Don't
say that. Gulf of Mexico.
Gulf of Mexico.
We're not saying that.
Over through the Florida Keys and then back up the East Coast, back up to the Hudson River.
Damn. That's wild. I gotta tell you, I never think about the Hudson River. I only think about the Hudson as it pertains to New York City.
Yeah.
And I truly never gave thought to how long it actually is, spanning from the Hudson Bay down to the Gulf of Mexico or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a Midwest elitist, so I only give a fuck about the Mississippi.
Yeah.
So.
Well, all of these waterways, estuaries.
It's a lot.
Tributaries.
That wasn't my brand of autism, was remembering any kind of geographical, historical, anything.
Well, you really missed out.
I really did. But like literally every song I've ever heard one time, all of the lyrics are planted in my brain forever. So that's fun.
Every episode of like a handful of specific sitcoms.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I love your brain. It's gorgeous.
Thank you. Ditto.
It's like a beautiful avant-garde vase. Blown glass vase.
A lot of different concepts happening at once, but somehow it works.
Lots going on.
It's a patchwork.
It's a pastiche. Okay. In 2009, Chelsea Sullenberger was flying an Airbus A320 full of people out of LaGuardia when they hit a flock of fucking birds.
Yeah.
The plane lost power and they decided to glide the plane down along and then into the Hudson River.
Yep.
It was 4 full minutes from the bird strike to the landing of the plane.
Landing would have been the longest 4 minutes of your life. I can't even imagine. That'd be terrifying.
I can't even. I forgot it was that fucking long.
Yeah.
Although
there it is. There's the only context for which I can identify a section of the Hudson River, and it's because of Sully.
True.
Captain Sully.
Played by Tom Hanks.
Thanks, Tom Hanks.
Specifically Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you what the actual dude looks like.
Could not pick that man out of a lineup.
Nope.
Unlike a Mons Pubis.
Well, but like a vulva.
Right.
Honestly, Captain Sully and a vulva, spot the corporate wants you to spot the difference.
The Venn diagram is just a circle.
Sick. Okay, so although about 100 people got injured, there were no fatalities, and all 155 people were rescued via boats alive.
Mm-hmm.
The Hudson River School was a prominent art movement that drew inspiration from the landscape of the valley and included artists like Thomas Cole and Frederick Edwin Church.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of beautiful art came out of this. This is probably my favorite part of my whole segment, so here we go.
Okay.
So you know how like the Hudson River comes down and eventually kind of empties between Manhattan and New Jersey?
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of comes down like through the boroughs. And of course, like there are cultural jokes about like mafia dumping bodies like in the Hudson.
So that's where the Hudson River empties in its offshoots that go down to the Gulf of Mexico. That's how they connect on that like 8,000-mile loop.
Oh, it's a 6,000-mile loop. And
6,000.
we go up the Hudson River through the Erie Canal to the Great Lakes, down the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico.
But then
and then
where do they come back up to
up
connect?
the East Coast.
Oh, so they go around. So it
They
just
go
empties into the Atlantic.
Yep. So they probably go up the East Coast to where the Hudson Bay empties around New York City and then goes back
So, yeah,
up
they're
that
going
way.
down through the Gulf and all the way around Florida and back up. Wow.
They're cutting a whole chunk through like down the middle of the United States and then like back up the edge.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Wild. What a weird trip.
Yeah. So like kind of cultural jokes about like finding bodies in the Hudson, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, the gang, the mafia stuff.
So this is from an article from the National Institute of Health. Quote.
Is this your case?
No.
Oh, Jesus.
This is just a snippet of a quote from an NIH article. Quote, we reviewed the case records for all decedents recovered from the waterways of New York City over a 3-year period, which was from 1997 to 2000. The epidemiological profile, circumstances, toxicology findings, putrefactive changes, date of recovery, length of immersion, and injuries were all examined.
Mm-hmm.
So they found that there were 123 deaths. There were 52 suicides, 50 undetermined, 16 accidents, and 5 homicides.
So that rumor was not based on really any truth. It was not even predominantly used for homicidal dumping.
Well, it was all just like cinematic, like Hollywood mafia, blah, blah, blah. I mean, honestly, if I were in the mafia, the last place I would dump someone, unless I was in a real hurry, is a river.
Yeah.
So the causes of death of these 123 deaths included 97 drownings, 13 undetermined, and 13 quote-unquote other.
Mm.
Of all the floating decedents, 27% were without putrefactive change. I think that means that they were fresh enough that they hadn't started the putrefaction stage.
Okay. If they were, recovered floating, then that would indicate that they were fairly fresh. Like those gases and air are still in the body.
Well, all of the bodies that were found after 2 or more weeks of immersion were recovered between November and May.
So cold, frozen.
I think
sections.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, that's so cool.
That is cool. I mean, it's awful, but it's
awful,
fascinating.
Of course, but it's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I do have a case for us. I'll get through it kind of quick. So I don't know if you're familiar with the BLA or the M19CO.
Mm-hmm.
So these are both organizations as well as the Weather Underground that just like these could each be their own full
episode
series.
Yeah.
Honestly. So I'm not going to get too far into it in case we want to dive into it a little bit deeper down the road.
Mm-hmm.
But the BLA is the Black Liberation Army.
Mm-hmm.
So they were a Marxist-Leninist Black national organization that operated from 1970 to 1981.
Mm-hmm.
And their stated goal was take up arms for the liberation and self-determination of Black people in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So this was comprised of former Black Panther members and...
I was going to say, I thought they were an offshoot of the...
They're an offshoot of the Black Panthers and also of the Republic of New Africa. Well, I don't know if they were an offshoot necessarily of that group, but they were at least made up of members from these groups.
Mm-hmm.
They operated above ground before going underground to continue these activities. Basically, they were looking to raise money for their cause.
Mm-hmm.
M19CO was a U.S.-based far-left revolutionary group formed by members of the infamous Weather Underground organization. I don't know if you're familiar with Weather Underground, but
I'm not very familiar with them. Like, I've heard of it, but...
It was domestic terrorism. They mailed bombs. They planted and set off bombs. They were political extremist, domestic terrorist.
Mm-hmm.
What is pertinent to this case is that the BLA members were Black, and I think most, if not all, of the M19CO members were white in this case.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying all of the members were Black and white, but the people involved in this case, I'm pretty sure it was Black and white group.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to talk about the Weather Underground in a future episode because it's really intense. So their goal of M19CO was to build the consciousness of action to pave the way for a people's militia. And they were active from 1978 to 1985. So they had similar goals.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, at this point, their aim was to get money to
support their work,
to build their respective militias
because
there was shit coming up. You
Yeah.
know? So the year is 1981. The date is October 20th.
Okay.
Endless Love by Lionel Richie and Diana Ross is at the top of the charts.
Ooh.
Malls were a very big deal.
Mm.
Hair is getting bigger. Shoulder pads are shoving their way into the doorways of our closets. And Halloween 2 is hitting the theaters.
Oh my God. That was 81?
81.
Damn.
Nanuet, New York. If I'm not saying it right, don't fucking let me know. This is how we're saying it. Nanuet. A small town. In 2020, the census had the population around just short of 19,000 people. The town is on the Hudson River, north of New York City. It's pretty affluent. It was originally called Clarkstown, but in 1856, it was renamed at the suggestion of the Muncie chief Nanuet. So that's where the name came from. So we have our BLA members.
Mm-hmm.
They consisted of Kawasi Balagoon, Sekou Odinga, Mitiari Sandiata, Samuel Brown, and Mutulu Shakur, who happens to be Tupac's stepfather.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 5 members of the BLA and 4 members of M19CO, and those were David Gilbert, Judith Alice Clark, Kathy Bowden, and Marilyn Buck.
Mm-hmm.
So on the morning of October 20th, Kathy Bowden picks up a U-Haul truck and drives it to and parks at a nearby parking lot close to the Nanuet Mall, while the other, I believe she was kind of by herself, and the other members of this heist drive into the mall. They are in a red van. They drive in at 3:55 p.m., and that is exactly when a Brinks armored car was making a cash pickup from the mall. So armed with shotguns and an M16, they storm the Brinks van, shooting out the windshield with shotguns and then opening fire with the M16. One of the drivers, named Peter Page, was killed immediately from several gunshots to the chest. Joseph Trombino apparently was able to get a shot fired off before being wounded himself.
But he survived.
He did survive. We will come back to Joseph Trombino because that is perhaps the most insane part of this entire case.
Okay.
The main driver of the Brinks truck, a guy named James Kelly, was also wounded. So one guy was killed. 2 were
hurt,
seriously injured. The assailants made off with $1.6 million, which is time money converter over $5 million today.
That's a lot of money.
A lot of money. After scooping up the cash, they go to that other parking lot where the U-Haul and a yellow vehicle. Sources differ on like what kind of car it was.
If it was a
some
van,
said it was a
was
truck.
a truck.
Some said it was, but from what I can tell, it was at least a yellow Honda vehicle. Okay. But so they ditched the red van. They are now in the U-Haul and a yellow vehicle. A college student apparently witnessed this part.
Okay.
People jumping from the red van into the U-Haul and the yellow vehicle. And someone was like, this doesn't look right. There's like fucking 11 people with several bags.
Yeah.
And guns. So that person called the cops. Officers from all over were converging on the mall and looking to block off all the escape routes because they didn't know at the time where they had gone. They just knew that this action started at the mall.
Yeah, they left the mall, babes.
So soon, several officers spotted and pulled over the U-Haul truck along with the yellow vehicle. So they approached the U-Haul with their guns drawn, but they weren't entirely sure it was the right vehicle because the people... Okay, and again, this part gets a little bit confusing, but the witnesses said that they were black individuals who had robbed the Brinks truck in the first place. But the vehicle that the police pulled over was full of white people.
Right.
So they were like, well, the descriptions match, like the U-Haul situation matches, but like the suspects super obviously don't. This was deliberate on their part. They intended to do this. So the police officers later testified that Kathy Bowden, pleaded with them to put down their guns. Like, I think she's in the U-Haul at this point. She's like, please put down your guns. We don't know what's going on. Like, well. So the cops kind of relax, lower their weapons. And then all of a sudden, 6 men with automatic weapons emerged from, and also body armor emerged from the back of the U-Haul.
Pop it out of the truck.
And began firing at the 4 police officers who are on the scene at this point.
Jesus Christ.
So Officer Brown managed to fire off some rounds before being struck repeatedly by rifle rounds and collapsing, after which point one of the assailants walked up to him and fired several rounds from a 9mm handgun and killing him. Officer Keenan was shot in the leg, but took cover behind a tree to return fire. I believe he survived. They survived. Officer O'Grady lived long enough to empty his revolver, but was shot several times by an M16 and succumbed at the hospital less than 2 hours later. So Officer O'Grady passed away. The last officer, Officer Lennon, was in the cruiser when the shootout started because I think it's like their rule to like have one person stay in the cop car to be on the radio and also to be able to like give chase or whatever.
If someone runs or
So he was in the car when this happened, but he stayed in the car because Officer O'Grady's body had collapsed against the door. So by the time he could get out, it was
too late.
The occupants of the U-Haul then scattered. Some of them jumped into the yellow vehicle, and others carjacked a woman named Norma Hill and stole her vehicle. Mm-hmm. Kathy Bowden tried to flee on foot, but was apprehended a short while later. Clark, with Gilbert and Brown in the yellow vehicle, took a turn a little too quick and crashed. An officer was able to hold them at gunpoint until backup arrived, and after the trio was arrested, they found $800,000 in cash, which, mind you, was only about half of it.
Yeah.
And also a 9mm handgun. Mm-hmm. So police start tracking down the license plates of these two vehicles and end up at an apartment in Mount Vernon where they found bloody clothing, guns, several detailed maps of police precincts, probably trying to calculate how long it would take them to get there.
Yep.
And also they found that the apartment was rented by Marilyn Jean Buck, who was one of the members of the M15CO group. Mm-hmm. Apparently the bloody clothing belonged to Marilyn Buck, who accidentally shot herself while trying to draw her weapon during the shootout.
Sorry, bitch.
Should have practiced.
Yeah, that was deeply unserious of you.
Yeah. So the cops went around the area of this apartment building and wrote down all of the license plate numbers of cars that were just parked in the area to just sort of track them. Mm-hmm. So 3 days later, they matched a white Buick with one of these plates, and police attempted to pull it over. The occupants drove off, crashed again. There was another gunfight that left Sundiata dead from gunshot wounds to the head and the neck, who was one of the BLA members, and then Odinga, another BLA member, was captured. A few months later, 3 more of the individuals were captured. Buck was arrested in 1985, and Shakur, who was accused of being the ringleader of the whole fucking thing, was captured in 1986. So Gilbert, Balagoon, and Clark went to trial first. Mm-hmm. They interrupted court proceedings repeatedly, railing against the government, calling the robbery a, quote, expropriation of funds that was needed to form a new country along with select southern states. They were like, we're owed this money. This is already our money. We're just getting it. And their only witness was Odinga, who either had been tried previously because he was arrested first, or he had way previously been convicted of multiple bank robberies before all of this. Unclear. But if he was their only witness, of course, the court would be like, that's not a great witness to have.
Right.
After 4 hours, the jury convicted them on 3 counts of murder and armed robbery. They refused to appear again in court, opting instead to remain in their basement cells, drinking coffee and discussing systemic racism in the court system. So, your prerogative, babe. You do you. But the judge was like, okay, you don't want to come to court, whatever. So the quote from Judge Ritter is, quote, I don't think any interest is served by forcing them to be here. Balagoon died of HIV/AIDS, in prison in 1986. In 2006, Clark was granted a new trial on the grounds that she had no representation at trial. I didn't have a lawyer. This was unanimously reversed on appeal in 2008, so she did not get a new trial because this appeals court noted that she herself chose to represent herself and pretty much just fucked herself. She just didn't show up on certain dates. She wasn't doing it right.
No.
In 2016, Governor Cuomo commuted her sentence to 35 years and she was granted parole in April of 2019. Gilbert was granted clemency by Cuomo in 2021 and was released after 40 years in prison. Bowden pled guilty to 1-count felony murder and robbery in exchange for a 25 to life sentence, and she was paroled in 2003. Brown was unable to reach a deal that would spare him a life sentence, so he decided to go to trial, and that didn't work out.
It almost never does.
He was sentenced to 75 years in prison. Buck was convicted of multiple charges related to the robbery and other crimes and got a 50-year prison sentence. He was released from prison and, subsequently, right away died of cancer in 2010. Shakur, who again was the alleged ringleader, received a 60-year sentence. He was paroled after nearly 37 years in prison and passed away from bone marrow cancer in July of 2023, just 8 months after his release.
But he wasn't the ringleader, right?
I mean, who knows who the fuck was the ringleader?
Right.
We don't know. It was two different groups who just wanted to get a bunch of money to further their own interests, which as far as I could tell were not the same end game interests. Like the BLA was for the liberation of Black people and like a secession situation. And the M15CO people, I think they were just like, I don't know, government sucks.
Yeah, they feel more like sovereign citizen Looney Tunes to me.
Yeah, they just weren't. They didn't have identical goals and values and things like that.
Certainly not.
So they just wanted to get a bunch of money so they could just do their fucking thing. Okay, so favorite part about this, remember Joseph Trombino, who was one of the Brinks guys who was shot? So he was the one who was shot multiple times in the shoulder and the arms and nearly had his arms severed off of his body in this Brinks heist situation. So that happened in 1981 or whatever I said. He went back to work for Brinks. In 1993, he was making a Brinks delivery to the World Trade Center and was almost killed in that bombing, the 93 bombing.
Yeah.
He wasn't killed, so he went back to work for Brinks. Bitch.
Bro.
While making a delivery to the World Trade Center in 2001.
No, you are not fucking serious right now.
He was killed in the 9/11 attacks. Third time's a charm, I guess. Death.
Holy shit.
Look at my goosebumps. Isn't that fucking insane? It was this, and then the 93 World Trade Center attack, and then the 9/11. And 9/11 finally got him. Fucking 20 years after, almost exactly 20 years after this thing.
That's wild. I can't process that. That's fucking nutty.
He almost had his arm taken off.
Damn.
All right. Sorry, that was so long. Who knew the Hudson Valley held so many secrets?
I just love that you said your segment was short today.
I'm sorry. We had a lot to talk about.
Oh, I didn't help. I never do. Well, should we take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsors?
Yes, that'd be great.
Let's do it.
It is so cold outside. The air is so dry. You're hanging out inside. Let's be honest. So whether you're deep into a TikTok spiral or you're powering through another rewatch of The Office, you got time to use the Illumina face mask. And if you're like a skincare freak like we are,
add this to your inventory, babe.
The eye Restore Illumina face mask is the perfect thing to treat yourself with. It's going to deliver like a skincare glow up that you really deserve. It's not just a face mask. It's 360 medical grade LEDs of pure magic, which is double most other brands. So it's got you covered with red, infrared, and blue light all at once. So you put this on your face, you just chill out, you do whatever you're going to do. And at the same time, you're tackling wrinkles, acne, and inflammation like a boss. For a limited time, our listeners can save $205 off the Eye Restore face mask at eyerestorelaser.com/gals25. Head to eyerestorelaser.com/gals25 and give yourself the gift you really wanted this season.
I love this thing. I look a little strange wearing it, I'm not gonna lie, but I can pop this on. It has this little battery pack that can clip to your shirt, so I can pop this on when I'm doing the dishes quick. That's 10 minutes. When I'm vacuuming quick, that's 10 minutes. It's you can add skincare to your regular routine that actually kind of makes the things the chores in my house that I typically dread doing kind of fun, because I'm also caring for my skin in this really extensive way while I am, elbows deep in a pile of nasty dishes. I'm obsessed. And iRestore is so confident in their products that they offer a 12-month money-back guarantee so you can gift it risk-free or just get it for yourself risk-free. If your skin doesn't look healthier, you'll get a full refund. No awkward questions, just results or your money back. With just 10-minute sessions 3 to 5 times a week, you or your loved ones will see brighter skin. You got to do dishes at least 3 to 5 times a week. Why not pop the mask on while you're doing them? Start the new year with a radiant glow, whether it's for a spouse, a sibling, a friend, or baby, get it for you. Treat yourself. The Illumina face mask is a thoughtful, practical gift that is sure to impress. In a clinical study, 90% of people saw a reduction in wrinkles, redness, and pore size with iRestore's Illumina face mask. Red light therapy is not just a fad. It is clinically proven to work. There are 3 wavelengths for all of your skin's concerns. I love this. You have more options with this mask than other ones that are on the market. They have the red light and infrared light wavelength that helps with anti-aging and improve blood flow to the skin. And then blue light anti-acne and blemish effect. It's the only mask on the market that allows you to use all 3 modes at the same time, too. We've got multiple issues with our skin, so why not have something that's going to give you multiple areas of support?
The future is now, and now's the perfect time to treat yourself. For a limited time only, our listeners get $205 off their Illumina face mask with code GALS25 at iRestoreLaser.com. That's $205 off the Illumina face mask with code GALS25 at iRestoreLaser.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Unlock your best skin with iRestore.
We are in a polar vortex here in the Midwest right now, and that has a big effect on the temperature that we are sleeping in. And interestingly enough, your nighttime bedroom temperature has some of the biggest impacts on your sleep quality. So, for me right now, I'm piling on blankets. I want to get warm, but then I'm waking up in the middle of the night sweating. I'm too hot. Or if I've kicked off too many blankets and I'm too cold. If this sounds like your struggle, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets, because Miracle Made sheets are inspired by NASA, baby. And they use silver infused fabrics that are temperature regulating so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long.
My favorite part about Miracle Sheets are that they are self-cleaning. So like Amanda said, these sheets are infused with silver, and that prevents up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. And like we said, the temperature regulating properties for better quality sleep. It is stunning how big of a difference this makes. Using silver-infused fabrics inspired by NASA, Miracle Made sheets are thermoregulating and designed to keep you at the perfect temperature all night long, no matter the weather, so you get better sleep every night. These sheets are also designed for your skin. So like I said, stop sleeping on bacteria. That's gross. Bacteria can clog your pores, causing breakouts and acne, but you can sleep clean with Miracle. These sheets are also ridiculously comfortable. And without the high price tag of other luxury brands. And the more you wash them, they just keep feeling better. They feel as nice, if not nicer, than sheets used by some 5-star hotels. So get on our level.
Yeah, seriously.
And dress your bed in Miracle Made sheets.
Upgrade your sleep this year. Go to trymiraclemade.com/gals to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code GALS at checkout, you'll get a free 3-piece towel set and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. So upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/gals and use the code GALS to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/gals to treat yourself. And thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode.
Okay, we listen and we don't judge. Having said that, have you been visiting your takeout apps more than you've been getting exercise maybe lately? There's no judgment. We're listening and we're not judging.
Always.
Well, every plate can help you feel good about what you're eating and also costs less than probably what you're spending on those apps.
Big time. That's like my only New Year's resolution is that I want to cook more at home because I am such an order in girly.
Yeah, and like everyone's busy. Cooking at home takes time, but Every Plate makes it so simple and delicious to create these wonderful meals at home and without spending that much money on delivery.
Yeah, it's awesome. Every Plate can help you dish up better habits with delicious, easy recipes delivered to your door, including new calorie smart, carb smart, and protein smart options. As someone who is diabetic, I have chronic illness. It is so nice to have these options. I really do love it. With the new Smart Swap recipes, you can swap flour tortillas for lettuce wraps, white rice for lettuce, and potatoes for sweet potatoes to make better for you meals. It really makes a huge difference for my blood sugar. And you can skip the store. I do not like grocery shopping. My husband handles all of that because I can't function properly in a grocery store. But you can skip the store and enjoy wholesome homemade meals that cost less than that huge grocery haul, babe.
Set wholesome habits this year when you sign up for America's Best Value Meal Kit. Get started with 50% off your first box and a free month at Planet Fitness with code GALSPF at everyplate.com/podcast. Every Plate offer valid with auto-renewing subscription. Planet Fitness offer valid with $1 down due at Black Card membership sign-up. Additional restrictions apply. See everyplate.com/podcast for details. That's 50% off your first box and 1 month free at Planet Fitness with code GALSPF at everyplate.com/podcast.
Are you ready for my case?
I am.
We are going way back in time to talk about Eliza Margaret McNally, who went by Lizzy and would eventually be known by one of her married names, Lizzy Halliday.
Of the Hallidayans.
I hope not, because what a legacy this would be. She was born in Ireland in 1864 and immigrated to the United States in 1867. So she was just a little baby, a wee little baby. Little is known about her early life, but she immigrated to the United States with her family in the 1860s. They settled in Pennsylvania, although as like an adult, she would end up in the Hudson Valley area of New York. So I swear I understood the assignment.
Got it. Is that the connection?
Well, she's kind of like infamous to the true crime history of the Hudson Valley region.
Perfect.
So, yeah. Lizzy's life took a tumultuous turn as she reached adulthood. Her early years were marked by instability, including a series of marriages that ended under suspicious circumstances. Her first husband, Charles Hopkins, quote, dropped dead 2 years after their marriage in 1879.
Good for her.
She then married Artemus Brewer, who died like months later. So like the Charles Hopkins Artemus Brewer death, the Charles Hopkins death is in 1881 1881. And then she marries Artemus Brewer and kills him also in 1881. So she's
busy. Expeditious.
Yes. I mean, allegedly killed him, quote unquote.
Yeah, okay.
His death was ruled a suicide, according to some sources, but most of the articles I read didn't list any cause of death at all for these poor bastards. And also, it was the literal 1800s, and it wasn't until this was like a pretty big story years later, and she was literally in an asylum. So it was like there were a lot of interviews with her, but we don't know how accurate they were.
Like the record keeping
wasn't great. It was easier to get away with murder. Let's just be honest.
The good old days.
Yeah, right. But Lizzy's behavior after these like rapid succession, marry, kill, raised suspicion. She was looking sus. Like there were some reports that like she was like celebratory afterward. Like
it was like a marry, fuck, kill.
Yeah, like with all with one, all with a couple of the same dudes. Yeah. So she should have chilled, but she didn't. But anyway, but there was no hard evidence in her husband's death, so the case was really not pursued. The Times, reporting on her trial, which happens later in 1894, begged the question, quote, whether these men died natural deaths or were murdered is not known. So after these two guys she married and who, quote unquote, dropped dead, she then married a man named Hiram Parkinson who left her less than a year later. So she married another man named George Smith, who was a friend of her second husband, Artemis Brewer. So, girl,
God.
I am exhausted.
She's on 4.
I made a chart.
Oh, thank God.
So if you will go to the drive, and we'll obviously post this.
Also, Hiram and Artemis, always marry those guys.
I know. So we'll get into the rest of these people, but here you see.
Chart. Oh my God, her photo. Why'd you do her so dirty?
Me? I didn't draw it.
You chose it.
It is really funny. It's like
that's
really
how I
funny.
wake up. I woke up like this.
She's in her robe, like
I
she's
know.
looking haggard.
That was me brushing my teeth this afternoon. Let's be honest.
So you can see there's Charles Brown, his husband 1, died 1881.
Yep.
Artemis Brewer, husband 2, died 1881. Then on the right-hand column, we've got Hiram Parkinson. He's husband number 3. He lived.
Okay.
At this point in the story, she's still married to George Smith, who is friends with Artemis Brewer. I'm sorry.
Number 4 was friends number 2.
Yep, correct.
Okay.
So she's still with George Smith. But, quote, in a few months, she tried to kill Smith by giving him a cup of poisoned tea, but he survived. And to avoid scrutiny, she fucked off to Vermont. In Vermont, if you're still on the chart, she married a man named Charles Plaisdell. So we've got 3 husbands that have survived thus far. And I don't think
including Charles.
Including now new Charles. And
okay.
I don't know if everyone had been legally divorced in between, but she's got 3 surviving husbands and 2 dead.
Cool.
She vanished into thin air a few weeks after marrying Charles.
My girl.
She's gone. She reappeared in Philadelphia, knocking on the door of the McQuillan family, who had been her neighbors when she was like a baby back in Ireland. So they were like family friends.
The fuck?
And she asked them if they could house her for a little while she got back on her feet. I just left this man. I don't want to be with him. I want to start my new life here in Philadelphia.
I need my eat, pray, love moment here in Philly.
And they're like, girl, come on in. We got you. You're part of the family. Let's go.
Oh, wow.
Under the guise of trying to build her new life, she opened up a shop in Philly, like a little storefront, but fucking burned it down just a few months later to collect the insurance money.
Natch.
So that she could leave Philadelphia and go on to the next thing. But this crime was extremely obvious insurance fraud and landed her 2 years in Philadelphia's Eastern Penitentiary. And I went there with Bill a few years ago. It's a museum now. And the self-guided tour where you wear the headphones is voiced by Steve Buscemi.
Shut the fuck up.
It's really good. I highly recommend it. If you are visiting Philly or in the Philadelphia area, check out the Eastern State Pen tour.
I love a self-guided tour.
And it's been a very well taken care of property since it became like a historical landmark. And I feel like they are really good about telling the stories of the prisoners that were held there, many of whom for real bullshit things, as is tradition. But it's a sobering experience, but like it's very good. I highly recommend. So after her release from Philly's Eastern Pen, she moved to Newburgh, New York, where she met, quote, an aging Civil War vet named Paul Halliday. So she marries him. She becomes a stepmother to his 2 older sons. And
Nothing
this
like
is the name she keeps.
Civil War vet.
Yeah.
It's a good mark.
Hey, now it's like the late 1880s. Everyone's an aging Civil fucking War vet.
Well,
quote, their married life does not seem to have been pleasant, the Times reported, because not long after, she stole a team of horses to run away and elope with a neighbor who promptly left her. So, like, he didn't even make the roster. He didn't even make the chart. I don't even know his name.
Oh, my God.
She was arrested for theft. And, like, I didn't see this, but I was wondering if with this arrest, there may have also been charges for, like, having multiple marriages, but that isn't clear. And also the record keeping at the time, like, who's to know? But she was certainly arrested for stealing horses.
Well, wasn't there like a time when like bigamy wasn't even a crime because you couldn't enforce it because there wasn't like record keeping?
Yeah. This is probably in that era. It was just something that popped into my mind in an ADHD moment while I was writing this, where I was like, I wonder if this also had anything to do with it. But like I said, I didn't read anything to that effect. That's like my own, I wonder if that was a charge. But she pled insanity and she entered an asylum. Like, she was deemed unfit for trial and for like regular prison. She's also a woman, but like she certainly was mentally unwell.
Yeah.
And we won't know what her diagnoses are because it was the fucking 1880s at this point when she was put in this asylum, or late 1880s. This might have been even been 1890, but regardless, we don't know. Something was off.
Okay.
We don't know her diagnosis.
Okay.
But in 1893, Paul Halliday, her husband, sprung her from the asylum, an act that she would thank him for a few months later by burning his house, barn, and mill to the ground.
Ooh.
And some reports were like she wanted that insurance money. Yeah. Ugh. But the insurance, while like listed as a motivation, doesn't paint the whole picture because a lot of her crimes seemed motivated by cash. Like even just, having several husbands and then some of them mysteriously die and she gets some of that money, or she burns her shop to the ground. Mm-hmm. And, it's like, yes, but then this particular situation, this particular fire and the details of the people affected changed that for me. Like there's no way this is about the money.
A little circumstantial.
Yeah. So one of Paul Halliday's sons, because remember she became a stepmom to his two sons from a previous marriage, and one of the boys died in the fires. I don't know exactly how old he was. I think one was a little older and might have been out of the house, and the other was maybe in his teens, maybe in his early 20s. He died, and the husband was nowhere to be found. And there is an article I read that detailed that John, her stepson who died, was mentally disabled, and Lizzy was thoroughly shitty to him, like openly did not like him and did not treat him well, abused him. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
Like I didn't see that word specifically, but that's what I'm believing it was. She had told authorities after the fire was put out that John died in the fire trying to save her. But when they investigated the house, they found him in his bedroom behind a door that locked from the outside.
Stop it.
To which she had the key.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Oh, that's so brutal.
She was immediately suspected of setting the fire since she was known to have disliked John. Oh. And then everybody's like, where the fuck is Paul? And she's like, oh, he's traveling. So like, thank God he wasn't here. But like when he gets home, we'll deal with this. And the neighbors are like, what? No, like, I don't believe that for a fucking second. And so they poke around. Gotta love a nosy neighbor.
I love a nosy neighbor.
While they're poking, they find 2 dead bodies under a haystack on the property. Neither of them are Paul. They were the bodies of, if you reference the chart, we haven't been over them yet, Margaret and Sarah McQuillan, who are the matriarch, like the wife and the daughter of the Irish family that took her in Philadelphia.
Shut the fuck up. What?
Yep.
Did she bring their bodies to the...
I don't know if it sounds like she lured them.
There's no way she would have moved 2 dead bodies from Philadelphia to where the fuck she's at now.
It does not sound like they were killed in Philadelphia, but again, accounts are kind of like shady.
Yeah, of course.
But what I believe we can determine is that, the shop burns down. She goes to the state pen. She leaves. She's back in New York. She gets married again. She reaches out to them, maybe for something. Maybe they brought her money. Maybe, I don't know. And says, like, why don't you come visit and, like, meet my new family? And they come, and she killed them.
Unfucking real.
Yep. They were bound, at least at the hands. Some reports also said the feet are, like, tied up, like, most of their bodies. And they were shot to death. And then she hid them under a haystack on the farm.
Christ. And then lit the farm on fire.
Yep. But this didn't light, so... and murdered her stepson. Lizzy Halliday.
Was her stepson the only one to die in that fire?
Yes. He was the only one to die directly because of the fire.
Because he was fucking locked in his room.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Lizzy was arrested for these murders, and a few days later, while the property was being, continuing to be investigated, her husband Paul's body is found under the floorboards of their house. He had also been tied up and shot to death, just like Margaret and Sarah.
What the fuck? Why's she tied up all these people, shooting them? She didn't act alone.
I think she did, but it also sounds like they're like on the visit that Margaret and Sarah had, there had been like a confrontation. Maybe they started talking about like what happened before she went to, you know, Eastern Penn.
Yeah.
And things escalated and, you know, maybe she killed her husband first and couldn't drag him because he was bigger, put him under the floorboards.
Oh my God.
And again, I'm speculating on some of that, but like I did read about like there was a confrontation between these, you know, 3 women and that led to their death. She gave some interviews in these like old timey ass papers. I actually kept one from newspapers.com that I put on the drive because it's like a wild read. But even the woman who's interviewing her is like, we don't know what we can like believe because we're interviewing her in this asylum and like she's been cagey about this shit and now she's telling me everything. Like it's we have the information that we have and we can only try to like fill in the holes for entertainment. But they were there. There was some sort of altercation. She killed them all.
Jesus Christ.
And then lit the place on fire and killed her stepson.
Oh my God. Talk about trying to just like get rid of all the loose ends.
Seriously.
It's like all of them.
Yeah, every single one. But in her attempt to try to get rid of any loose ends, she just got caught like immediately.
Well, yeah, of course. Of course.
Yeah, and you know, thank God. So while in Sullivan County Jail awaiting her trial, she refused to eat. She tried to strangle a sheriff's wife. It was like common in these smaller town jails, at least at that time, for like the wives to help with caring for prisoners. So like bringing in fresh linens and like feeding, you know, whatever. She tried to strangle
Well, they kind of like frequently like lived in the same house? Like the sheriff and his family would live. His family would live in the same house as like a couple of cells.
Yeah, there'd be like a few cells like on the main floor, but then they'd have like lodging up above and like behind. Ugh. Yeah. I imagine something like that. I always think of the jail in Cold Blood.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Like
That's what I was thinking of too.
Mm-hmm. So she didn't kill this woman, but she tried to choke her to death. She set her sheets and clothes on fire. She tried to hang herself. She cut her throat and arms with broken glass. And quote, for the last 3 months, it has been necessary to keep her chained to the floor, the Times wrote. So she was like losing it.
Ooh.
Her story became an absolute media frenzy with the sheriff overseeing this investigation, even kind of playing into that for publicity. Like he was going on and on about these being the most heinous crimes he'd ever seen and how quote unquote insane she was. And even threw speculation out there that she might have been Jack the Ripper, which like she's an immigrant from, you know, that general area, even though it's like, that's not, and it was around the same time frame. So they were just like, and she's so evil. It's like, oh, she's Jack the Ripper. It's like, yeah, she's fucking evil. Like, this is really fucked up, but let's, you know, I know you want your fucking likes and clicks even then, but like, chill. Yeah, she's not Jack the Ripper.
That was 19th century clickbait.
Literally, there was no evidence existing to support that theory at all.
Mm-hmm.
And when asked directly if she was Jack the Ripper, she reportedly replied, quote, "Do you think I'm an elephant? That was done by a man." Which, like, I don't know why elephant would be like the quote unquote stupid animal because they're extraordinarily smart, but.
Well, I mean, I guess that was her way of like, are you mistaking me for something that's obviously very different?
Yeah, maybe that's the context that makes sense. I don't know. I don't remember in any of my past life the 1890s slang colloquialisms, but I loved that. It's like, you dumb like bitch, that was done by a man.
That like time periods phrase of like, what the fuck do I look like?
Right. A room full of women doing arithmetic.
Exactly. That's
so the press had a field day, and she was dubbed by the New York Times the worst woman on earth. Which is 100% why I chose this case. Because I was like scrolling through. I was looking at like Hudson Valley, New York, like killers, serial killers, like historical killers, whatever. And that was like
worst woman on earth.
Right under
here's your trophy.
It was like Lizzy Halliday, quote, "the worst woman on earth." And I was like, well, I'm all in.
Sold.
Got him. You got me.
Who needs the fan pick when you can have the worst woman?
I don't think there was one. I checked the doc.
I did. I took it. I stole it.
There you go. There you go.
You're welcome, Guns N' Roses, whatever your name is.
No, not Sid and Nancy. We're Bonnie and Clyde. Whatever.
Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses, Sid and Nancy, Bonnie and Clyde. So I just want to put it out there that I would like to throw my name in for the title of the worst woman on earth.
Yes, I would vote for you.
Thank you. So if we could please get that campaign going, I would really appreciate it. So on June 17th, 1984, Halliday was convicted of the murder. 1894.
Just saying.
Halliday was convicted of the murder of Sarah McQuillan and sentenced to death. When that sentence was commuted after she was judged insane, she lived out the rest of her life in the Mattawan Hospital for the Criminally Insane. It's probably not called that anymore, but it was 1894. Okay. Arkham Asylum. She was hardly a model prisoner, however, because she tried to escape several times and she attacked many of the orderlies and prison workers. Most viciously, a nurse named Nellie Wicks, who is also on the chart on the left-hand side, whom she killed via stabbing with scissors more than 200 times in 1906.
Oh my God.
Yup.
200. Can you, like the blue whale?
Yeah, it's too many fucking times. So Halliday herself died in Mattawan in this institution on June 18th, 1918, almost exactly a year after Helen was born.
I was just going to ask for our Helen.
I put it in my notes.
Our Helen relation.
I put it in my notes. And again, like I mentioned before, while a formal diagnosis of any legitimacy would have been rare, if not impossible in that time and in that environment, there are experts who have looked at this case since and believe she was likely suffering from severe untreated mental illness. And there were signs that there could have been a personality disorder at play and certainly a lot of disassociation. She had erratic behavior and a troubled past and seemed to have lost all sense of empathy.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And I think that is reflected here. And it's just one of those things where it's obviously not every mentally ill person has violent tendencies, and people with mental illness are the most at risk to themselves. So this isn't one of those things where it's wow, she was mentally ill. But if your environment is not supportive,
throw away the keys.
Yeah, and you have no way to access treatment or support for your condition and you already have trauma.
Yeah.
Things can align.
Do you think is going to happen, honestly?
Things can align and a lot can go wrong. So it's interesting because her case, for how big of a sensation it was, it really fell into obscurity and was overshadowed by legends of the era like Lizzie Borden and Jack the Ripper. But she's considered to many to be the first female serial killer in America. And her story kind of grew again in, I hate to say popularity, but in the cultural zeitgeist because somebody wrote a book about her.
Infamy.
Yeah, just, maybe 15 years ago. And then I think there are movies now and there's a bunch of podcasts about it. But people had altogether forgotten who this woman even was and didn't even think about her. And it's this is likely the first female serial killer in the United States. And it was a huge deal. She killed a lot of fucking people.
I think it'd be interesting to do a little bit of a dive into female murderers, serial killers versus male the same, because I feel with women, we might be more inclined to be well, she had this disorder, she had this growing up. And I know that on our show, we kind of parse that out. We try to parse it out a little bit more.
And also try to apply that kind of thought process to all of our perpetrators and not just the women.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we look back at the men too.
I think in general, though, it's easier to just ascribe to a male murderer, oh, he's evil.
Yep.
But to female murderers, it's no, she had her reason. But yeah, interesting to think about. This was a very great case study in just that.
It's a fascinatingly dark,
it's really dark.
weird, case. And something that really stuck out to me is like, until these last 3 big murders, and the only reason I don't include John is for what I'm about to get to, there was no like consistent MO, really. She'd burnt a structure once for insurance money that, for all we know, that had no intention of harming anybody else. She just wanted the money. We don't know the methods that her 2 husbands who did died, but there was at least one who lived to be able to be like, that bitch poisoned me. So we've got poison, we've got fire, we've got tying people up and shooting them.
Yeah, that's why
like, the only consistency was among the 3 that were probably killed either on the same night or like in rapid succession.
I would venture that the other 2 dudes were also poisoned because statistically that's what women do. It's cleaner, which is why I was really surprised that there wasn't a known partner in the hog tying and shooting of those 3 people, because that just seems like a serious departure and also like physically difficult for her to do by herself.
It makes me speculate as like, if I picture that night, say she got like into a fight with Paul and she killed him, and then like her friends showed up,
like shot
him. And because they were at home, there was, it was the 1890s on like a farm in Hudson Valley region of New York. Like they probably had a gun on the property.
Yeah.
So like she'd have access to a weapon like that. Shoots him. Maybe the friends are there yet. Maybe they're not. But like they discover like, oh my God, she just shot her husband. They're like trying to take off. She chases them out. She shoots them. And then I feel like what all happens next feels like panic. Like, okay, I'm going to tie them up and maybe make this look like some kind of breaking and entering situation. But then, oh shit, my fucking stepson, who I hate, is home and could have heard everything.
Yeah.
I'm going to lock him up
just
in his
burn
fucking
all
room
of it down.
and just light the whole goddamn place on fire and try to take off and just see if I can get rid of evidence and start a new life. But she got caught. That's that makes sense to me logically. Like, this was manic. This makes no sense.
That makes sense. But in terms of like execution, so to speak, I mean, we've talked about this before. The term dead weight is that term for a reason.
Sure.
Moving a grown man's body anywhere, and then like bending it, tying it up. And I'm also kind of not even really going. I mean, of course, a woman is capable of firing a gun. I'm not saying that she's not. I just going from the poisoning to like the more secret, allowing yourself more time, more precision of poisoning and also arson makes so much more sense than firing a fucking rifle and dragging dead bodies and tying them.
That's why I feel like it was an in the moment decision. Like, she shot her husband and killed him, and then she's like, oh fuck, I'm gonna tie him up, pull up some floorboards and roll him under the floor and put the floorboards back.
That's crazy, though. Can you think about yourself doing all of that?
I mean, my husband is tiny, so yes, I can. I can think of myself doing that. And rolling, I feel like a short distance is less challenging than dragging a long distance.
Totally.
So then it tracks to me that like, okay, I'm going to chase these bitches who heard or saw everything outside.
Yeah.
I shot them. They're near this haystack. I'm just going to, I mean, you could even just move the hay to pile it on top of them.
Yeah,
she didn't necessarily have to move them. She could have forked a bunch of hay on top of them and then been like, oh fuck, my stepson's up there. Now I gotta go a step further and burn everything to the fucking ground.
You're right.
That's where I feel like, as a mentally ill person myself, who can easily spiral think completely out of control, like those lines connect perfectly for me.
Okay.
In a moment of panic, I can totally picture that, and being a one-woman job, totally picture that.
Okay.
You never know. But we don't know. We don't know because like the forensics,
we will never know.
No. And like the forensics to get that kind of information out of a crime scene just were not, it's a small town police station. It wasn't going to be it never fucking is a perfect investigation. And then she's an unreliable narrator. So we're just kind of left with like, here's what we do know. And we could try to fill in the rest with our imaginations. So we're speculating wildly, but like I could totally picture that being the play in that final stretch. I'm
just putting my doubts out there.
I appreciate that.
What you're saying does make sense. I feel like what I'm saying makes sense.
She also had a lot of husbands.
Maybe
there was an affair.
Oh, yeah.
Come help me take care of all of these people so that we can.
She could have been splitting some of the profits from the insurance fraud with somebody else.
Yeah,
she could have had a
steal their
guy
shit
on the side.
Fuck off and disappear and start a new life. Like, who's going to know?
Mm-hmm. And if she's written off as a fucking lunatic anyway, she might have sang like a canary and everyone was like, well, she's fucking nuts, whatever.
Right.
Not writing any of this
exactly.
down.
We don't know what to believe 100%. So, but yeah, very fascinating. It looks like some really interesting podcast episodes out there about this that go into it in more detail. So please feel free to, if you're interested in Lizzy Halliday, to explore her more thoroughly than I am able to do in the structure of our show.
Thank you so much to Bonnie and Clyde, whoever you are.
Ban.
This was Hudson Valley Hoodlums.
And I hope we did it justice.
I feel like we better have, because this is a 2-hour episode.
God bless.
Thank you so much for listening and sticking with us. And we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Wine and Crime. Our cover art is by Danielle Sylvan. Music by Phil Young and Corey Wendell. Editing by Jonathan Camp. Our production manager is Andrea Gardner. For photos, sources, and other resources, head to wineandcrimepodcast.com. You can follow us on all the socials at Wine and Crime Pod. If you'd like to show your support and get access to all sorts of wine-fueled bonus content, check out our premium channel at wineandcrimepodcast.com/uncorked. Cheers!
This episode of Wine and Crime is brought to you by Progressive Insurance.
Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies.
Try it at Progressive.com.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.